I got Elfie a few weeks ago to get into the Christmas spirit. At first, it was cute, him sitting on the shelf watching over everything. I'd move him around the house every day. Well, Elfie ain't following the rules anymore. One morning, I woke up and Elfie wasn't where I left him the night before. I figured I must have moved him in my sleep. I swear, I put him on the living room shelf, next to the ceramic snowman my grandma gave me last Christmas. But the next morning, I found him on the kitchen counter. It kept happening. Every morning, Elfie was in a different spot. I thought maybe I moved him and just forgot. I shrugged it off and put Elfie back on the living room shelf. The next day, Elfie was in the bathroom. What's he doing in there? I definitely didn't move him and I live alone. I checked all the windows and doors. That night, I put him on the bookshelf in my bedroom. I took a picture with my phone. The next morning, I grabbed my phone and checked the pic, and there he was, clear as day on the bookshelf. But when I checked, he wasn't there. Elfie was in the living room, on the coffee table. I freaked out. How could he move by himself? Days went by and Elfie kept moving. It didn't matter where I put him. The little guy would show up somewhere else the next day. I tried locking him up in a drawer, stuffing him in the closet, even tossing him in the trash, but it didn't matter. He always came back. And every time I found him, those plastic eyes seemed to mock me. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed Elfie, put him in a box, and drove to the nearest dumpster. I tossed him in, slammed the lid shut, and thought, finally, it's over. I went home, convinced I'd solved the mystery. But the next morning, as I stumbled into the kitchen for my morning coffee, there he was, Elfie sitting on the damn kitchen table. I couldn't breathe. I felt this cold dread creeping up my spine. How could he be back? I decided to set up my webcam to record Elfie's every move. That night, I put Elfie back on the bookshelf, pressed record, and went to bed. The next morning, I was both relieved and horrified. The recording showed Elfie moving from the bookshelf to the dresser, then to the windowsill, and finally to the edge of my bed, watching me sleep. I watched in disbelief as his tiny plastic eyes seemed to stare right at the camera. I could see myself sleeping in the reflection of those shiny, soulless eyes. I was watching the footage the next morning, half expecting to see myself doing some sleepwalking. But it was Elfie. I watched in horror as he hopped off the shelf and started strolling around my living room. It was like he had a life of his own, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Elfie was moving on his own, no strings or invisible hands. I couldn't wrap my head around it. They're not supposed to move by themselves. I'm not ashamed to admit it, I screamed like a little kid. My Elfie was creeping around my room while I slept. This was beyond messed up. There was no logical reason for a stupid elf toy to move on its own. Maybe it's a prank or there's a hidden camera in my house. I had to get out. I couldn't stay in that house with that creepy elf. I packed my bags and left that night, leaving Elfie behind. I don't know who or what was behind all that, but I wasn't sticking around to find out. All I know is I won't be doing the elf on the shelf thing ever again. The holidays are supposed to be joyful, not filled with plastic nightmares. Stay safe out there and watch out for your elves. They might be up to no good. My daughter insisted on getting an elf on the shelf this year, and we ended up with Max, the pint-sized, beady-eyed enigma. Max is supposed to be Santa's little informant, keeping tabs on whether we've been naughty or nice. It feels like he's got a personal vendetta against me. This little red-suited guy is up to something. The first time I noticed it, I was sitting on the couch after putting my daughter to bed, watching Netflix. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the elf staring at me from its perch on the bookshelf. It felt like its beady eyes were drilling into my soul. I shifted in my seat, trying to shake off the weird feeling. Every time I looked back, it was staring at me. I moved to the kitchen to make a sandwich. I'm spreading mayo on the bread. I glance over, and that creepy elf is perched on the counter this time. I swear its eyes followed me, like it was judging my choice of lunch meat. I laughed it off at first. Must be the lighting, I told myself. But that laughter turned into a shiver when, as soon as I looked away, I heard this faint, high-pitched laugh, like a little chuckle. I turned back, and that elf had this smug look on its face, or at least, that's what it felt like. I shook my head, telling myself I was paranoid. The next day, I'm in the shower and I can swear I hear that same eerie laugh. Now, I don't know about you, but I like my showers in peace, and the last thing I need is an elf eavesdropping on my singing. I started feeling like this little guy was messing with me, playing mind games. Every time I left the room, I'd hear that laugh. It was like it knew when I wasn't looking, and it took pleasure in mocking me. It happened last night, too. I was burning the midnight oil in my dimly lit home office. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Max on the bookshelf, perched there like a tiny voyeur, staring at me with those plastic eyes that seemed to gleam in the soft light. I chuckled nervously, blamed it on the caffeine, and tried to focus on my work. I was at the breaking point. I had enough. I couldn't take the constant feeling of those eyes on me, judging my every move and laughing. So I decided to confront the thing. I walked right up to it and said, "What's your deal, huh? Why are you staring at me like that?" Of course, it didn't answer. It's a plastic toy after all, but I swear as soon as I turned away, I heard that laugh again, louder this time. It echoed through the room, making my skin crawl. But Max wasn't content with a casual gaze. Every move I made, he tracked. Shift in my chair, his eyes followed. Reaching for a pen, his gaze stayed fixed on me. It was like living in a Hitchcock film, except the villain was a foot-tall elf with a twisted sense of humor. Morning came, and as I stumbled into the kitchen, craving the lifeline that is coffee, and there he was, Max perched on the windowsill, silhouetted against the pre-dawn darkness like an overzealous guardian angel. It was as if he had been waiting for me. The sun hadn't even risen, and he was already giving me the side-eye. I chuckled nervously, telling myself I was overthinking things, that elves don't engage in psychological warfare. I told myself I was being ridiculous. But the unease persisted. What's truly bizarre is the way he laughs, or at least I think it's laughter. I swear I can hear a tiny, sinister chuckle whenever I dare to glance away. It's not the cheerful ho 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 you'd expect, it's more of a mocking, guttural sound that sends shivers down my spine. I've started avoiding eye contact, pretending to be engrossed in my morning routine, yet I can still feel those plastic eyes drilling into me. Fast forward to midday and the paranoia has reached new heights. I'm practically tiptoeing through my own house, playing a bizarre game of cat and mouse with a diminutive elf. I tried hiding Max in a drawer, but the laughter persisted. It's like he's playing mind games with me and I'm losing. He's orchestrating a creepy, laughing symphony of discomfort, and I'm the unwilling conductor. Now you might be thinking, just toss the darn elf out. Trust me, I considered it, but there's something about it that feels wrong. Call it superstition, call it paranoia, but I can't shake the notion that Max won't take kindly to being discarded. What if the laughter turns into something more malevolent? Call me superstitious, but I'm not ready to find out. Also, my daughter loves him, and he doesn't do it to her, so I will tolerate him until after Christmas. As the day drags on, my paranoia intensifies. I've caught myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see Max orchestrating some minuscule revenge plot. It's absurd, I know, but I can't shake the feeling that he's playing a game I didn't sign up for. Maybe I'm just succumbing to the stress of the season, or maybe Max is more than just a shelf-dwelling informant. Last night I went to bed thinking about work. This morning I woke up and something felt off. I rub my eyes and look around my room, and that's when I see it. Jingles, my elf on the shelf sitting on my dresser, crayon in hand. This morning I groggily sat up and squinted at Jingles. He's sitting there holding a crayon. I blink a few times thinking I'm still half asleep, but nope, there's definitely a crayon in that elf's hand. And then I notice it, my walls, covered in crayon writings. I start to feel paranoid. Is this elf playing mind games with me? Am I being punked by Santa's little helper? I even check for hidden cameras, half expecting Ashton Kutcher to jump out and tell me I've been elfed. I get out of bed thinking maybe my niece got into my house, but it's just me and Jingles. I glance at the walls and it hits me. I can't make sense of the writing. It's all scribbles and weird symbols. I try to rub it off the walls, but it's like the crayon is ingrained in the paint. At this point, I'm freaking out a bit, but I try to tell myself there's some logical explanation. Maybe I sleepwalked and went on an artistic spree with Jingles. But as I start my day, things get weirder. I find crayon writings in the kitchen, the bathroom, even on the dang ceiling. Jingles is just sitting there looking all innocent, like he didn't just turn my house into a crayon art gallery overnight. I call out sick to work so I can try to figure it out. Throughout the day, I try to decipher the writings, but it's like some cryptic code. Lines, circles, and squiggles. It's all gibberish. And then, in the middle of the afternoon, it hits me. The symbols, they're like warnings, but warnings for what? I can't shake this uneasy feeling, like something bad is about to happen. The symbols seem to point to different areas of the house, and I start to connect the dots. It's like a puzzle, and each piece is a piece of my sanity. Night falls and I can't sleep. I keep staring at Jingles, half expecting him to come to life and explain himself. But he just sits there, that creepy elf grin never leaving his face. I can't take it anymore. I decided to confront Jingles. I grab him, look into his lifeless eyes, and demand answers. "What the hell is going on?" I whisper, hoping for some miracle response. But of course, Jingles doesn't say a word. He just stares back at me. Determined, I start following the symbols on the walls like some possessed detective. It leads me to the basement, a place I rarely go to, but the symbols guide me. And as I descend the creaky stairs, my heart races. In the dim basement, I find an old box tucked away in the corner, dust-covered and forgotten. Inside, there are old family photos, newspaper clippings, and a diary belonging to the previous owner of the house. I open it and my blood runs cold. As I read through the diary, I discover a dark history, tragedies, strange occurrences, and a sense of impending doom. The symbols on the walls were warnings, urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within the walls of this house. In the basement, the symbols guide me to a peculiar-looking brick. I give it a gentle push and voila, a hidden room unfolds before me. Inside, artifacts, ritualistic symbols, and the grand reveal, a skeleton tucked away in a dusty corner. Turns out, the previous owner wasn't just into weird rituals. They were harboring a literal skeleton in their secret closet. Fear grips me and I can't stay here any longer. Jingles might be a creepy elf, but he somehow knew about the ominous past of this place. I pack my bags, call the police, and leave until the police can sort this out. You never know what your elf on the shelf might be trying to tell you.